Let's get this started, people. Hit that like.
I don't know. I've been talking to friends about it. I don't know if I should subscribe. I think so, but I mean, been putting a lot of thought into it, and I just don't. Oh, sorry, I have another call. Oh, yes. All right, one more minute. All right, welcome to the show, everybody. Hi, it's Hal Sparks, Mondays, Megaworldwide. Like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show. Do what you can to help us grow. Wow, I might have stumbled on the actual opening rap. Yeah, because I think that, you know, it rhymes. It gets to the point right away. Not that you shouldn't know already, but welcome, chat room, to this show. Joining us this morning will be our dear friend Cliff Schechter. He's on the phone with a congressperson right now, probably all hush-hush on the DL, whatnot, but we'll pry him for information. I have a cattle prod laying around here somewhere. And then, of course, second hour, Tara Dublin rocks as my surrogate talk off the ledge guest of the week on the regular. There are, yes, Teresa Boone brings up something great. There are going to be elections in Florida and New York to fill vacant seats. Please vote for Dem so we can take back the House and get rid of Trump's Little Johnson. Absolutely. These are crucial. And again, it's part of the reason why I've been like radio silence on anybody trying to like talk down any strategy any Dem has at any given time, because there are too many. We got bigger fish to fry. Nobody on our side of the aisle is to blame for the stuff that's going on right now, except maybe the voters who are getting their comeuppance by, you know, what Trump said again this morning about Gaza. Let me see if I can bring that up for you, because boy, was that fun. I don't know if you guys saw it, but he was on the plane on the way to the Super Bowl where his team lost. And oops, I don't want that one, do I? No, I do not. I want this guy. And he, you know, he took some questions. He was snotty to the person from HuffPost making a point about them Yeah, is that the okay? That's the Harvard part of it. Everybody's trying to hide the part that he said about Gaza from the kind of general public. But damn, like right on the nose. Like everything, everybody has tried to walk this crap back. And here he is. Let me see if I can find this. Hold on. There you go. Yeah. A
controlling interest in a U.S. steel company.
Well, let's look at this. When I came here, they were going to buy it, and Biden was going to approve it. All of a sudden, Biden didn't.
Also, no, they weren't. They were like, hold on.
It's not going to stay that way. This is on every country. That are taking advantage of the United States.
Canada and Mexico.
Yeah.
Okay, Canada and Mexico.
I think you agree with that, Doug, right? U.S.
Can you tell me? Can you confirm that you'll be meeting with MBS and CC of Egypt soon? Will that be at the White House, or are you going to speak?
Well, I'll be meeting with all of them numerous times, by the way, but I'll be meeting with all of them. And yeah, I think that it's a big mistake to allow people, the Palestinians or the people living in Gaza, to go back yet another time. And we don't want Hamas going back.
Also, by the way, they're fucking there. It's not about going back. They didn't leave. They're moved around and they're gathered in refugee areas or in parts of it that are not bombed out. You know, they obviously went after the city centers where the tunnels were and all that kind of stuff. But ultimately, there's still, close to 2 million people there. They didn't leave. They didn't they're not floating in fucking rafts off the shore.
And think of it as a big real estate site.
Fuck you. And fuck these uncommitted assholes who helped make this happen. Specifically played an enormous part. They were like, we're going to show that we got leverage and therefore we're going to, put the screws to the Democrats, and they just fucking bailed. Because you got to know we mean business. And what did you do? You made it inextricably worse. There's a direct tie between the slacktivist people out there who did this shit and what's occurring. I mean, listen to this shit. And by the way, this was a walk back, right? Remember, he brought this up, kind of floating it around, and Susie Wiles shot daggers at him right in the White House. That's what we heard. That she was like, what the fuck are you saying? And then by the afternoon, when he met with the Japanese prime minister and he did that little press gaggle, it was in his official remarks. And now it's just getting more psycho by the minute.
People living in Gaza to go back yet another time. And we don't want Hamas going back. And think of it as a big real estate site. And the United States is going to own it. And
fuck you. No, we're not. We're not creating a Moldova, like a Transnistria kind of situation on the coastal area of Israel. It's not fucking happening. I don't know what the fuck own it means. They're going to be, all right, they're going to be walking this shit back and talking about, by own it means we're going to be a very important partner in the blah, 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 blah. No. He thinks Jared Kushner, with Netanyahu's approval, is going to lease or buy large chunks of it, like Hong Kong is to the British. The United States, and therefore anybody he hands out contracts to rebuild the thing to, is going to, quote, own the area and therefore be able to dictate who lives there under what circumstances. This, again, anybody, and I've seen a bunch of people try to what about and justify this on social media, well, if only the Democrats were a little more hardline on Netanyahu and that kind of stuff, well, then no. You don't get to fucking pave over your mistakes. The difference in the lesser of two evils in this circumstance is the limitations the Biden administration put on what arms we were sending to them. There was an embargo on certain arms. Trump took it off. If there was no limitations like these people online are saying, then what did Trump's EO do? Nothing. But it did. It allowed them to have 2,000-pound bunker buster bombs because, you know why? Because he wants them to level the site. He wants them to to literally hit these places where structurally there's no going back. So, again, anybody who says they didn't know this was coming is full of shit. Anybody who tries to go, well, it's very, what's the real difference? This is a huge fucking difference. This is insane. And so anybody who tries to shrug off the fact that they aided and abetted this shit can go fuck themselves. Stop. Live in your shame, learn your fucking lesson, and move on. Because if you start covering your ass and going, well, what's the difference? Then I just know that you're on a fucking couch somewhere with not a care in the world on the warm side of a bay window with a latte in your hand playing activist. You slacktivist, faux-aggressive fuck. Other than that, I have no opinion.
And we'll slowly, very slowly, we're in no rush, develop it. We're going to bring stability to the Middle East, to a totally war-torn part of the Middle East, a part of the Middle East that has caused tremendous problem, the Gaza Strip, and we'll own it. It's totally demolished right now. It's a demolition site.
No, and by the way, no, it isn't. No, it isn't. Like that, all you see are the bombed areas because that's around where the Hamas headquarters were and all that kind of stuff. There's big swaths of Gaza was where there's still homes. There's still tracts of buildings. Is the damage extensive? Abso-fucking-lutely. Is it all just basically concrete rubble top to tail? No.
It'll be reclaimed. It'll be leveled out, fixed up. There won't be anybody there. Hamas.
Listen to this. Listen to this. Listen to how he's talking about it. This is the president of the United States. And this is what the shrug off lesser of two evils, I don't know, like attitude gave us.
Won't be there. We'll be building through other of the very rich countries in the Middle East. They'll be building some beautiful sites for the people.
No, they're also, these other countries are not building goddamn suburbs to relocate Palestinians. They've all said this. Like MBS, all these fuckers. They've all said, well, we're not taking these assholes. What are you talking about? The president of Egypt said it, and Trump's like, well, when I talk to him, he'll do it. Why? Why? One of the reasons why Egypt maintained the border, with Gaza itself, and why it was so porous for a lot of weapons and stuff that went through, is because the Hamas leaders, many of whom are still alive and living in Qatar, threatened him with the Iranian Republican Guard that they were going to oust him and the current Egyptian government. They lived under that threat all the time. What does he have to gain with you taking a random selection of whoever's left in Gaza and moving them to Egypt where they can live in a walled compound? What the fuck is this?
Palestinians to live in. They'll be living in harmony and peace, probably.
What? All right. With each other, by themselves, isolated, separate from everywhere they're sent to. This is nuts. Oh, speaking of nuts, just in time. Let me see if I can hear you, Cliff.
Hello?
I don't hear audio
Can
coming
you hear
from
me?
you. There you are.
Can you?
Hold on.
Hello?
Why am I not hearing you? Hold on 1 second.
Hello.
Why is this? Hold on.
No problem.
You're sending audio my way. This is not your fault. Hold on 1 second.
All good.
Let me see if I can remedy this real quick, and I will bring in Cliff in just 1 second. By going through my system settings because it's being a dick all of a sudden. like again, the languaging on that he's using went from whimsical horseshit on his part. Oh, okay, that's why. This is I wanted to go into this one. This is the Oxford. Okay. Yeah. The languaging that he's using. Hold on, I have to switch your input on this thing.
Hello? There we go.
Sorry about this, guys. 1 second.
Hello? Hello?
I think this is okay. Check, check.
Check, check, check.
Are you hearing yourself back at all?
I'm hearing myself.
Okay.
No, I'm not. I did the
Okay.
first second. Now
Now it's good?
we're good.
Okay, great. Excellent. Let me do this real quick.
Sorry.
And,
Let me say
Oh,
quickly, I'm sorry. It was literally, can you hear me right now?
yeah, I hear you great.
I mean, literally a business here about to be destroyed by Trump's freeze. And I'm not going to get into more details unless this friend of mine wants to go public about it. An essential
Sure.
business that actually helps all of us here. And I happen to have a relationship with our congressman here, who's a terrific guy, Greg Landsman, who you should have on
Mhm.
sometime and trying to
Love
help.
to. Love to.
So I mean, just doing what I can, we do what we do on the macro level, and if we can on the micro level, help people, So
Yeah.
apologies for being late, but it's the kind of thing that
Never. No,
I
don't
wish
worry
someone,
about it. Yeah. Well, here's one of the things you and I can maybe think about doing, and I would like to do this, is have on these races to fill seats that are coming up. I think
Yeah.
everybody on our side of the aisle should have these folks on, if only
Absolutely.
just to help with their fundraising nationwide and getting some attention on these races. So Mark in our Mark Kremer in our chat has been talking about this, and I think it's really important. And I think what we'll do is maybe we'll send out a little email blast or in the Substack or something. Go, here's the races to focus on. If either through Act Blue or directly having on our live streams and Tony and
I have
Boston
an
Brian.
email list, a large list where I fundraise. I mean, that's one of the big things that I do.
Great.
And we've got the two big Senate races that'll be coming up, including the one here in Ohio. And again, people need to understand that I can't speak for Florida, but Ohio without Trump at the top of the ticket is a different place.
Yep.
Like we won a number of state, of state Supreme Court races. We won, which were statewide, obviously won key congressional races, like the one my friend won in a swing district. Here we won Sherrod Brown last time around when Trump wasn't at the top. When Trump's at the top, these weirdo incels turn out for him that don't turn out. It doesn't matter if he tells them to when he's not at the top of the ticket. And we
Right.
saw that in between. We just saw that race in Iowa where the guy who ran that open state Senate seat is now the lieutenant governor. Of course, there's BS rule where you can run for two things at the same time. So he ran for a
Right.
state Senate seat and the lieutenant governor. He won the state both. So he resigned. He won the state Senate seat, I think, by 21 points. Trump won it by 22. And now we have a special election 2 weeks ago or so, and we win it by 2. Almost a quarter of the electorate
Right.
turns around because Trump's not there.
Right.
That's what we're looking. So Ohio, we absolutely, with the right candidate, and Sherrod Brown, if he runs again, is the right candidate. We'll have to see if there's other folks who have that kind of populist appeal. Like these are winnable. And then there's the House seats, although it looks like we're going to do the smart thing and do them what they've done to us and maybe not have the Elise Stefanik open seat election until about 2029, which I'm all for. I'm kidding, but they're pushing it back from March till either you're going to pass the law to push it back to either June or November, as they should, because this is what Republicans do to us. Use power when you have it.
Yeah. Right. And they are, what is it currently, a single vote in the House? Are we down to one or is it two officially?
It's 2,
Yeah.
right? Because if they are, I think it's 218 or 215. So
Yeah.
so one goes to us, they still win 217. So it's really 2. But if they have one absence and one vote
Yeah.
switches to us, I mean that's how
it.
close it
Right.
is.
Right. And
So-
and these will make a huge difference. This could zero out that lead. These ones
Absolutely.
that are up for it. So also,
Right.
it is one of the reasons why I have been watching. I feel like I'm going. I feel like I've died and gone to the '90s in terms of my political watchings lately. Is that there's a huge disconnect between what Trump is saying and what Trump is, like telling people he's doing and telling people is being done, and what actually is possible and what's actually being done. The scary stuff of Musk being able to get into certain systems and the like. There's spikes. It depends on which thing you're talking about, but there's spikes of exaggeration and spikes of real threat, right? And it's hard to parse the two because a lot of people aren't aware of the technical aspects of what these guys are doing.
It's technically difficult to understand exactly how the tech works with deposit systems and rewriting code and all this. I've heard many different reports. What I can say and you can say and what we know is he is a private citizen. Nobody elected him. Doge is a joke committee based on a 15-year-old meme of a dog. It has it has as much power as, hi, I'm Cliff Schechter. The camera there, I'm the head of the camera committee. Right now, that has as much power in law as his committee. No Senate has not been confirmed by the Senate. It's a made-up thing. So as a private citizen, for him to go in there and even break into whatever it is he's doing, and then for them to not allow the oversight Democrats in is illegal. They are still breaking the law, whatever level of risk there is. Are you leaving? Am I boring you, Hal?
No.
I'm kidding.
Chip was trapped in the room and he was skulking around my office door, starting to do that kind of like where his back was getting really low to the ground.
Poor guy. All right.
Yeah. So I was like, I had to let him out. So, so again, I just played that bit of Trump, pre-Super Bowl flying to the, over the Gulf of America, which totally, by the way, I don't know if you know this, but by declaring it the Gulf of America and then declaring it Gulf of America Day, he totally lowered egg prices. I don't know how it happened, but
I mean, they're not 10 to 15 a dozen anymore. Everybody's all set. All other grocery prices, gas prices aren't up. We're not going to go through a massive spike in inflation on all sorts of food and homes because he's deporting people that are willing to work for much less than their American counterparts. And then when we fire all these government workers, I don't know, when they lose their spending power, I'm sure that'll go great.
Right. Well, and I don't know if you know this too, but apparently the Doge guys don't really have that much access to how much government spending goes on at the highest levels like they've been saying, or they would have noticed the waste, fraud, and abuse of flying a president to the Super Bowl and paying, somewhere in the order of $15 million just to get him there and another $20 million in ancillary costs to protect him and house everybody and all that kind of shit.
Yeah, all of that, or maybe the waste, fraud, and abuse of paying some emerald mind idiot, toddler sense of humor, South African who's didn't even come here and work here legally when he did, who, why are we paying SpaceX for what the hell we could have NASA doing? Why are we, using Starlink when we could? I'm sure there are plenty of others. Like it's pretty funny how this guy makes all his money off of government subsidies. Tesla has nosedived in this country. It's down 46% sales in California,
and in
maybe
dozens of
the
others.
biggest EV market in the world, but it's, I mean, fourth, fifth biggest economy. It's down in Western Europe across 50, 60%. It's weird. In Germany, United Kingdom, France, they don't really like a guy coming in and supporting their Nazi parties. So they're not buying them. So in the end, like all that's going on is he's making money off of these subsidies. Well, if we were to cut all of those, we'd have a hell of a lot more government efficiency.
Oh yeah, no question. Like the irony is that there's not. I've mentioned this before, but there's not the only business he has that isn't kept afloat by government subsidy is effectively Twitter, and that's a failing business. Like if you just
that is fallen by 80%, I think, since he took it over.
Exactly. It's not profitable. It's a PR arm of the Republican Party and of Donald Trump specifically. That is all it serves. So its profit is made in helping them gain and retain power, but it is not valuable as a company. It is not brilliant in how it's run. Again, Grok is shit. It's overwhelmed with bots, and it's basically Stormfront's version of Parler now.
He fired 3/4 of the staff. I mean, it goes on the blinker half the damn time. Some of the different features don't work. It kicked me out the other day. And again, I'm trying still to get my data, which has been taking forever and can't. seemingly, and maybe that's on purpose by them, but
Yeah.
it may
Oh,
not
he
be
slowed
because
that
they're so
process down.
incompetent. When you fire 75% of your staff that knows how to do anything, I mean, he reminds me of
Mhm.
Trump. I know more than the generals. I know more than the economists. I mean, Elon Musk thought he knew more than all these people at Twitter, and it turned out, shocker, he didn't know anything. And when the government isn't propping him up, he's not such a genius. He's just some
Right.
annoying guy with a bad haircut and like the EQ of a lawn chair. That's what he is.
Well, this is. There's no point where Donald Trump is going to get smarter this year. Like you can tell by how he's talking about things and the kind of things he's talking about. Like, if you took over Canada, it would not be one state. It would be three. It would be divided into three. They divide the provinces. If you actually play this out, and all three of them would be 2 Democratic senators. We'd have 6 Democratic senators with a decent population base who are used
Greenland
to having.
too. I mean, if you
who
want
are used to having national health care, by the way. 3
Right.
states, 3 new states that are like, wait a minute, where's our national health care? We would like to retain that fact. And the rest of the country going, wait a minute, if they get to keep it, why don't we get to have it? Violation of the commerce law. Like, it's just dumb, which is why it's never going to happen.
all
It's a
that's dumb because
fucking-
again, it's just not. It's
not
crap
happening.
that makes its way somehow up from his colon to his mouth, and he spews out. We know this all the time, right? Every week was infrastructure week. He had a better plan than Obamacare, but eventually he had concepts of a plan. I mean, everything is crap. Everything. There's nothing real there. The only real policies that he can find are ones that are cruel to people, cut funding to them, deport people. In other words, he can only tear stuff down. The man does not have a creative bone in his body. He has maybe some creative bone spurs, but no creative bones in his body where he can figure out any new policies that would help anybody because he doesn't care to, and he doesn't have the ability to.
Well, okay. So the other thing is obviously Greenland and Gaza are the other 2 things. Amida Sue is going, who's going to stop him? It's never going to start. That's the point
right.
I'm trying to make.
It's not going to happen. Have you seen the wall? Anybody? Like it's like it's like the wall in freaking Spinal Tap. I mean, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, there is no situation where if what ultimately happens, and again, this is the point I'm trying to make too, is that there is no version of Trump that gets smarter and is able to pull off these crazy things with Gaza or Canada or Greenland. Just it's absurd, and everybody around him knows it because again, it's not even the fact that he wants to do it. It's that it would cost somewhere in the order of $1 trillion. Look at Iraq and Afghanistan to just stabilize and own Gaza. $1 trillion fucking dollars. There is no.
While he's cutting, I just wrote a Substack I'll be getting out today on all of the ramifications, the cruelty, absolutely, just because we have humanity. But beyond that, the ramifications to the United States of what they're doing with USAID and other aid, which is like, hey, does everybody love terrorism and pandemics and wars abroad? And if you're Donald Trump, do you like mass migration because of these things? Because this is what you're trying to cause. And even somebody, who I often rip into is responsible for at least somewhat for the timeline we're on. Ronald Reagan understood the power and importance of foreign aid and that he argued vociferously in favor of USAID and the role that it played in keeping us safe, as they did NATO. So this guy is sort of like all the dumbest Republican ideas over the last 50 years collected together, and none of the smart ones.
And I don't know why somebody doesn't. Maybe they do. I would argue that probably these are the conversations that Marco Rubio seems to be having with him to some degree, or maybe around him or past him. I don't know what the fuck.
Probably
the plan
around
is there.
him with
and
others,
certainly Thune and the other Republicans in the Senate who are talking about dividing the big bill up into 2 bills and reconciliation to get the budget passed, all that kind of shit, because they know that there are more Republicans who are against Trump's budgetary choices, including the extension of his tax cuts, than there are, Democrats all in that matter anyway.
And
so
now, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, this is okay. So I think they're talking to him in terms of somebody needs to discuss with him in terms of ROI, the return on investment. The return on investment is on USAID outpaces itself by, hundreds of billions of dollars because you don't send in troops and you don't have to rebuild damage and you don't have disease spreading and you don't
not getting
have
Ebola is kind of cool. How about that?
Right, exactly. Yeah. And the same thing is true of protecting against avian flu. Now, right now, we basically have a rudderless FDA, it seems. And the result is we've got an out of control, avian flu outbreak, and there's just nobody minding the store other than states, I suppose, trying to take mitigating things, and they're just burning chickens right now, right? That's all
Yeah,
they're
I mean,
doing.
and
They're
that's
just,
what's going to happen. And I don't, where that takes us long term. But look, as I said, California, I mean, I don't remember. They either just moved up from 6th to 5th or 5th to 4th in terms of the largest economy in the world.
yeah,
New York, I think, has the 12th or maybe
yeah,
something high. I mean, there are some states, that are going to be able to step up and take care of this stuff.
right.
Some of it, at least, and they get that who they border, crazy stuff, but weather patterns, guns, like pandemics actually cross borders. I know, wacky stuff. So,
Right.
They'll try to work with others. Maybe, there'll be a zone in New England and the, middle Atlantic. Maybe there'll be a zone up in the northern Midwest. Maybe, certainly the West Coast and parts of the Southwest. But like, they're going to have to come together and do that because, and what's going to happen is you're going to see just the way you see the billionaire class of who owns the monopoly state here getting wealthier and wealthier at everybody else's expense. You're going to see the rich states getting wealthier and wealthier, and you'll probably see the poor ones getting poorer and poorer because they do have the funds to take care of themselves. I'm sorry, Alabama and Utah do not.
Yeah. Well, and I've talked a couple of times. We went through the stats on a lot of the states, and like, you could literally move America's standing in the world's, the educational ranking up 10 points just by getting rid of Mississippi. So the idea that these are the bootstrappers and it's the blue states that are the problem or the drag is horseshit. And again, that's where
we're
I think,
net payers, and I say
Yeah.
we, it's not really me because I live in Ohio now, and we
Right.
are sadly have become a red state. I'm hoping to get back to swing state territory, and I believe that we are net takers. And so, but again, you look at when you look at those lists, by far the blue states contribute more and the red states take more out. So all these freezes, all this crap that Trump is cutting, not crap, but all of these things that Trump is cutting are going to hurt red states disproportionately, just like the tariffs would have hurt red states disproportionately. I mean,
Right.
But they're too stupid to understand. Maybe some are. Jerry Moran has come out against them quite vociferously on farms, probably because he's seeing a lot of farmers lose their farms in Kansas and realizes, hey, he can be unelected too.
Well, is there a thing to I think there is sort of narratively leaning into this whole meritocracy thing that they keep throwing about, because I feel like I feel like if you could make the point, like, dude, if you really if you set grok on meritocracy, what cities are worth saving and what states are worth saving, none of the red states would make the fucking cut because they are net takers.
All Florida has right now is tourism, and as everything there, like hotels are no longer insured either, and become massively more expensive because people are like, yeah, climate change in Miami, we're not going to. That's going to end up hurting. And so Europeans that go there, who also, by the way, aren't big fans of Donald Trump, aren't big fans of every person having a stand your ground law and gun, will be like, yeah, we can just go to the French Riviera instead, the Greek islands, one of many other places that actually is first world. And the only thing Texas has is the accident of being on top of, oil and gas. And again, guess what? Like, at some point, as we know with peak oil, that runs out. And it may not be right now, but like, it's sort of like the Middle East, parts of the Middle East, when that's what you're relying on. I hate to tell you, it's not indefinite. It will not be there forever. And otherwise, you produce nothing. In Texas, I think 24% of their children or something are uninsured, don't have health care. I mean, so whatever they're bringing in funds from their various, their luck, if you want to call it that, or unlucky for the rest of us with fossil fuels, they're spending on government programs because they refuse to do, just like you said, the ROI on USAID, the ROI on preventative checkups and sending people to doctors early to catch things instead of treating them when they're already really ill is huge too. And Texas has that backwards.
By the way, like people, somebody was mad at me for picking on Mississippi. I'm not picking on people from Mississippi. As a matter of fact, as a person from Kentucky, I recognize the power of actually getting the fuck out at some point. It's also the trend of those particular governments to be anti-government, which is always ironic. Again, the Republican motto is government can't do anything right. Elect me and I'll prove it. And
Right.
Right. And you know, Mississippi and Alabama, Louisiana, and I would argue Texas as a tangential part of it, who have lucked out because of oil. If there was not oil in Texas, it would be it would have the exact same problems. Yeah, it'd be right. It would struggle to compete with New Mexico as a landmass.
And this is important. I'm sorry, it's not that anybody's picking on Mississippi. And again, you got out. Like I'm sitting here and I live in Cincinnati and I grew up in New York City. My wife is from here, but at some point this area is doing terrifically. This area is liberal. This area invests in infrastructure. But at some point, a lot of us will have to make a decision if this state doesn't head back to at least being a swing state insane, because I'm not picking on, every Ohioan out there, but as a collective group, we've voted for some absolute dumb fucks and done some idiotic things, and we are paying the price. And Mississippi, it's the same thing. The only mitigating factor you could argue against is that, is 37 or 38% of the state, is black, and it's not their faults. That should be if the Supreme Court hadn't overturned the Voting Rights Act, basically, whatever. If we could ensure that every black Mississippian who should be able to got to vote, Mississippi might actually be a swing state, because you really would only need to win about 15% of the white vote and you would be in the ball game. But they suppressed a lot of the black vote, and seems like every white voter there is determined to vote for ritual suicide. So, I mean, what do you say to that? I mean, we just have to be honest about these things. So I'm honest about the state I'm sitting in.
Well,
what are you gonna do?
And again, all of these, I mean, there's a lot of ties between Musk and the fact that he lives off the government tit and pretends he doesn't, to all the other maggot, leaders out there who do the exact same thing. I mean, look at Marjorie Taylor Greene, largely paid for part of her campaign with her PPP loan.
They got the PPP loans. A whole group of them have been busted for taking huge farm subsidies. I mean, they're all so full of crap. Chuck Grassley has since I don't know what, I think he's been there since about 1846. So let's say during that time,
I've got a lot of bullion buried out in my yard. Right. Yeah.
Yes. When he says you're no Jefferson Davis, he knew Jefferson Davis.
He knew him in person. Right. Yeah. Right. I know what he smelled like, and you don't smell like him. I actually think I do a pretty damn good Chuck Grassley, now that I think about it. That's pretty rock solid.
Dead. I mean, you get the good sort of marbles in the mouth.
Dear Margaret, it is my third week in the Civil War, and I'm having a great time. They've put me in the kitchen, and I've only screwed up 2 of the 3 meals. Of course, the third one, we didn't have a chance to eat it because of incoming fire.
We had to saw off one of our general's legs, and I made it into a nice soup.
Yeah, gangrene makes it tangy, says the boys.
Gangrene has a great taste. But here's an important point. I'll say quickly. I brought up Grassley. We brought him up, and I went after him. Obviously, people might be like, "Oh, you're being mean. Oh, you're calling him a Confederate." Here's a little fact for everybody, because he's been around seriously since the 70s. He's been in there. Okay, I was like 3 years old when he was elected in whenever it was in the mid 70s. Yeah, he voted. I think he's the only senator left who voted against a Martin Luther King Day holiday. So if you ever want to argue that he'd be on the right side of things, no. He was on the wrong side of that, and somehow he's still there.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And, again, these guys all act like they live in this sort of matriarchy, Ayn Randian utopia where they're all bootstrappers and they come up on their own and all that kind of stuff. And it's never true about it, including Trump, arguably. Like, if it isn't American money, covering his ass by not having to pay taxes, he's getting it from foreign governments as well. And again, that's not bootstrapping.
With 400 million. I mean, starting off with, in today's money, 400 million from daddy, Most of us don't have that kind of an inheritance sitting anywhere
Right.
around.
Yeah,
know,
and
and
losing it all. Again,
Yes.
he had to borrow $26 million from his brother and sister's part of the trust fund to keep the lights on. It may have been 56. I think it was closer to 50. But he had to borrow that money from their trust to and not to like, I got this great deal and we just need the seed money, right?
Right.
Right.
No, I try to
it was
point this
literally
out to
just
people.
to keep the lights on. Right.
Right. And he lost it in casinos. I
Yeah.
just want to make this clear to people. There's a reason they say the house always wins, right? I mean, you go to casinos
the
to
one
have a
exception.
fun time. You go in, you give them your money for chips, which then they pump oxygen into the room. There's no windows or clocks. So you kind of, you're not looking around too much. You're focusing. They ply you full of free drinks. And then you lose all those chips and give them all of it right back that they gave you so they keep all of your money. This person found a way in that business to go bankrupt. I mean, that's an achievement.
Well, and,
I mean,
and again, look at Elon Musk. Same thing. The one business that doesn't get government subsidies. You know what? I would argue, I take that back. There is one element that's a government subsidy in that by the time he bought it, it was standard fare for for every government and every governmental representative to have an account on Twitter. It became
share
necessary
information there. Yeah, it was essential.
Right. So it specifically, like, he got, if attention is, is worth its weight in gold to some degree, the fact that all these people had to stay on the site and people had to listen to the, if you wanted to reach even AOC at that point, you had to stay on the site to get it. Right.
Right.
So that in and of itself is something bankable that he could sell to advertisers. He could parlay that into something else. Right.
Correct.
And I would
he
argue
found
that
a way
that's just
even to lose that because the number of governments, since his pro-Nazi stances, a number of the governments have left. Various groups, journalistic groups have left. I remember what. Right. I mean, more. Yeah, Hal Sparks left. Like, it's and Cliff Schecter's trying to leave. It's just it seems to be a process where it's going to take 14 months to get my data from them.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, and again, I think he interrupted that process. It's hard to decide whether it is, obstinance or incapacity. Who can say at this point?
Yeah, it is because again, like I know that I have been on that place since 2008, but I didn't really do anything there. I think till I'd have to go look back. I don't think I did much there till like 2011, 2012, and still that's a long time. But even with the amount of data I had on there, I was never one of those people that, could I send out 30 tweets in a day sometimes? Sure. I was never one of those 400 tweet a day people. And there were whole weekends I wasn't on there. It's not that crazy an amount of data. And to me, that says, again, that there's something very wrong there, that it takes so long to download. And then maybe I'll close my computer because it hasn't done it yet. And then it'll interrupt the process. Like, it's ridiculous, And
I would argue that that's not on accident.
I think you're right.
But zero engagement is the answer primarily while that's still happening. I know people are like, I have to sell things and I have to reach people or whatever. I would argue that people with stores in Germany in the 30s made the same argument. So, and so that's where I was like, at the very least. And again, there are many outlets. There's one of the things that China is trying to use as against Trump's reciprocal trade war thing that he's trying to start up with everybody because it is this fantastical fixation that he has. And he
needs attention. I think it still stems from he's angry at the world always. It's that famous line. I think I've got it in the top of the Substack thing that I told you I was running on USAID.
Yeah.
Why are they doing it? They're doing it for no good reason. It's that part from Tombstone where, he's like Johnny Ringo, where you ever see Val Kilmer? And he's like, a man like that, can never have enough hate, can never steal enough, kill enough. And, Wyatt Earp's like, why?
Yeah.
And he's like, because he wants revenge on the world. And he's like, why is that? For being born. And that's one of the best because they hate themselves. They are such self-loathers.
That's why I think he doesn't.
This chart shows the movement in Russian governmental borrowing over the past.
Sorry, that was
Hello, Siri.
Yes, no, that was Joe Blogs talking about Russian debt. That just because I was closing a window because it was eating up cycles.
Yeah.
Anyways, the thing to again, watching out for this stuff what he's actually, what I was kind of, we were getting to with earlier before we got, fired up the way we do, is that I've been watching a lot of on the floor House speeches about, stuff that's actually happening, how they get the budget done. They've got a week to get Trump's funding done. They got a week, and they're not going to make it. And the
Democrats do not help them. I'm sorry.
Right. They aren't.
There were times where when it came down to things like, again, Republicans as playthings, starting with Newt Gingrich, just to be assholes, just to say what they're saying right now, like what they were saying in California, which is, we'll give you aid if you adopt our policies, because you always have to do what they want. They started using things like the debt ceiling, which, by the way, should never have been allowed because it doesn't exist in the Constitution, but that's another conversation. And budgets and things of that sort. But these are the situations where those kinds of measures are actually called for. Emergency situations where you need to threaten people with, yes, and we may all go through more pain because of it, but if you need to stop them, you need to stop them. And that's where the point we're at.
Well, there is, okay, so the fantastical part of it is that while people are like, Democrats aren't doing anything, largely they are, but the reason they're not being out loud about it is because, the Republicans are so busy beating the shit out of each other.
Yes.
That stepping in and looking like you're part of the obstruction doesn't serve politically in terms of messaging. The message is these assholes can't agree with each other. So how are we supposed to figure out even what they're for? Right.
On the budget, like I would argue, it should be obvious to anybody who understands how this game, if you want to call it that, is played, the role that pressure and public relations plays in moving votes and moving public opinion and all of that, as well as other measures, overnight holding up votes, whatever that means. Brian Schatz has jumped in to hold up State Department votes. Chris Murphy jumped in to hold up those votes overnight. You had Jasmine Crockett giving a barn burner of a speech, as well as a couple other members where they did not hold back. All right. They weren't the Democrats of these were the Democrats I've been waiting for, not taking any shit.
The speakers announced policy on January 3rd, 2020.
One second.
Your friend. Yeah. I can talk to your pal there. It's all good. No. I'm just kidding. I mean, seriously, they did a lot. Last week felt different. Anybody who didn't feel that momentum change in the air when Democrats stood up and fought on a number of fronts. I mean, there's some stuff, I'm sorry, that as much persuasion as you use, as much noise as you make, as much as, you could have every vote and you just can't do. All right. Because we are in the minority, but there are a lot of things they are doing. Whether it be public relations, policy ideas, fighting back, through various,
legal things,
tactics. Yeah. So, I mean, we're getting there. And of course, there's always a couple Democrats who suck, who are kissing their butts, but there are a lot of good ones who are fighting them.
Well, and also you give, again, in temperamental districts, you give people room to move a little bit, and then that everybody comes home. Right. That happens a lot.
And judges have been stopping them too. Important to say.
Okay. This is Representative David Schweikert, I think. Schweikert
from Arizona.
Yeah, he's the Republican from Arizona. Okay. He is the surrogate whiner for Mike Johnson. So Mike Johnson's job should be to come down and go, guys, we got to cut this. We got to take this giant bill you guys want to pass, and we got to cut it in two because we're never going to pass all of it, and everybody's got their different priorities. And if we have to swallow all of it once, it's going to drive the budget up. The expenditures are going to go through the roof. We're not going to save any money, and it's going to get more expensive because we're going to have to borrow money against money that's already borrowed, blah, 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 especially if it includes the tax cut, which Trump is insisting on. Okay, Schweikert is there to make the case that this is a fucking mistake. Don't do it. This is the debt currently. This is the interest on the debt. This is the projected debt, and this is Trump's, the president's requests on top of everything. So this is their, the budget as it stands. This is how far they go into the red. And they're already, and I love how they make it like this is the stuff that already exists. It should be the pink part, and the deep red should be up here. They flip it just to
expect the propaganda. But when we talk about races, I'll just say quickly, everybody should know Schweikert that's a seat we can win. Yeah. And with a backlash and without Trump at the top of the ticket, there's no, in 2026, we absolutely should knock that schmuck out. So
absolutely. And he knows it. And if you listen to this argument against Trump's budgetary desires, a Democrat couldn't make it better. Even though we would have different priorities.
You're exactly right. Yep.
He knows he's fucked, and he can't argue for all the stuff that the Freedom Caucus wants, because it's trillions of dollars of extra spending, and it goes against everything they said and all that kind of shit.
But I thought the Freedom Caucus was against that. Hal, I don't understand.
Oh yeah. So he goes through. Not only does he go through and he shows like all the spending and yada yada, but I want to show you. He holds up these charts at one point to show how much. Yeah, there it is. He goes, the suggested cuts on the Department of Education. Okay, you want to cut the Department of Education because you hate it? $2.75 billion. That's 9 hours of borrowing all year long for 365 days a year. If you stretch out all the borrowing the U.S. government does over the course of 365 days, you save 9 hours by getting rid of the Department of Education. Now, the other thing is ancillary costs, return of investment.
What do we get rid of by getting rid of Elon Musk's subsidies? Anybody do that calculation? I'd love to see that alongside it.
Oh, he doesn't even, they didn't even put it. Okay. So getting rid of all foreign aid, all of it, USAID, everything the State Department does, all the money that goes out the door, $57.25 billion, 1 week. You save 1 week.
I mean, it's ridiculous. And again, like so many Americans, because they've lied so often and because corporate media fails so badly, I just saw something where like 47% of Americans thought the foreign aid took up 25% of our budget. Not kidding you. Like they've propagandized it, and we have not effectively explained this to people that this is such a small portion of our budget. And it's so, that small bit is so worth it on ROI, as you said. I mean, you know, again, they got this in the past. Hell, even George W. Bush, who went in the opposite direction of ROI and, frankly, humanity with Iraq, when it came to AIDS in Africa, because I'd like to give people credit where they deserve it, that spending, that investment by them paid off in so many ways, right? Even the far right crank, I would say, of the George W. Bush administration understood on some level that foreign investment like that was a helper to us. And that's why these idiots right now are they're apart from everything, from every bit of common sense, from all learned history and knowledge. I mean, it's a joke.
And Schweikert's statement on the floor is 42 minutes long. Like it's a long, like he's giving a class to his fellow Republicans on why this shit won't fly.
Right. And somebody's defensive and scared they're going to lose, it would seem.
Oh yeah. And again, literally, this is a conversation you might have about your budgetary direction 3 months ago, 6 months ago. And again, they had the House last year, so they kept it, but they, narrower margin now, but still.
But in their defense, they were trying to round up Mike Johnson to come help out, but he was busy monitoring his son's porn. So you do have to build in monitoring porn time, because sometimes that will take time out of your schedule when you should be working on the budget.
In the demographic part of his conversation, he talks about like childbirth and that kind of stuff, in which, in births versus deaths. And I'm sure that would show up in procreation would probably set off Mike Johnson's app. So that's probably why he wasn't there. This part right here.
Great part. Great point.
Yeah. But again, this guy is not talking to Democrats. This is not a speech he is giving to try to win Democrats over to voting with them. This guy is screaming at his colleagues that they are doing exactly the opposite of what they said they were going to do, and it's unsustainable. And all the real arguments they believe about cutting the budget and debt and all that kind of stuff. Never mind the fact that our economy has grown proportionally to our debt, along with everything else. And the same thing, like if you move into a nicer neighborhood, you have a nicer house and a nicer car, but you probably have a nicer salary, and you network with people and it grows and that kind of stuff. And and we had a $10 trillion budget and a $10 trillion economy and $10 trillion of debt. And now, like, because of Trump, if it wasn't for Trump's expenditures, we'd be below our level. We'd be at like 27 to 26. We'd be 27 trillion economy, 26 debt.
The one number it just boggles the mind. And again, this was before Trump coming in now. Probably will be more in our favor soon, winning this time. But during this election that folks are pointing out is over the last, I think maybe it was since Reagan, since I don't remember where they started it, but over the last kind of however many Democratic, an equal number, I think, of Democratic and Republican presidents, we created 49 million jobs, and like 47.5 million of them were created under Democrats. Like, how you don't repeat a number like that because every time they come in and they try to strip us down for parts, and they cut programs that work, that lead to more government spending on healthcare, more government spending on infrastructure and all sorts of things. And then we come in and we invest in smart things and make everything, and create robust, explosive economies that create jobs. And in the end, and again, I know that not everything bad can be, in the economy, there's cycles, can be blamed on a president and all that. I get all that, but you will see again and again how Democrats come in and inherit absolute crap. Your pal and my pal John Fugelsang always points it out, and always says, like, during my lifetime, every single time a Democratic president has been elected, it's to clean up the mess that a Republican has made. They've had to come in to an absolute mess in numerous ways, but an economic mess. And every single time they've turned the economy around and created just gangbusters. Think of what Clinton did with like 22 million jobs, and think about what Obama was able to do turning it around. Think about what Joe Biden did, unprecedented growth. And like this should be simple, but again, there's right-wing propaganda, there's corporate propaganda disguised as media, and there we go.
Well, yeah. By the way, cliffsedge.substack.com is the Substack, and of course on YouTube it's cliffs_edge. So you give it a little space, a little design aspect of it there, and then check that out. Are you doing 3 days a week, every day, 2:30?
So what I do is 2 p.m. To 4 p.m. right now, or definitely 2 p.m. till whenever, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Eastern. So
that's right.
Please, that's our live streams, and I may get my live stream key soon from Substack. So, hang on.
Very
That'll
exciting.
Be fun too.
Hold on tight. We're coming.
I love
agree.
it. Substack's great.
Yeah, I think it's becoming a thing, and I want to thank everybody who signed up for mine. I was like, the fact that it started to take off, I'm like, great, another thing where I have to produce content, but I'll be able to do it. I will.
You can produce content also, and you can share it in a few places, or as I've found, you can come up with an idea for that video you're going to produce if you are, and that same idea is the one you decide to write about in your Substack, but a little differently because it's in written form, and that's different.
Sure.
And then you can take a chunk of that and turn it into a short and turn it into a TikTok, and you can take images from that and put it on Instagram if you want to hang out on that asshole Zuckerberg's place. And point being, you can multi-purpose stuff.
Yes,
and still create a lot of content.
Yes, it's why I have a buffer, and at least now it has a blue sky element on buffer, and hopefully they will. I guess maybe they have a Substack thing. I haven't used it for that. I haven't added it since. So maybe because I've been building this for the political voices thing, hoping that we can get this. Intending we will get this 100 Days show off the ground with me, John Fugelsang, and Frangela. Tara Dublin Rocks is waiting in the background. I want to thank Cliff for being on with us today. Yep. Processing the lunacy. cliffsedge.substack.com. It's slowly but surely being your Cliff Schechter hub, I think.
I believe so. It shall be. Thank
Absolutely.
you. I appreciate everything, Hal.
Absolutely. Cheers. See you later. There he goes, ladies and gentlemen. Excellent. And now we will go in here and we'll swap this thing out and bring in Tara and this and thing. And then I think I may be able to, I might have actually fixed this thing so that it works. Hey, look at that. Look at that. I've been working behind the scenes.
I want to be on the 100 Days show with you and John and Frangela.
I love the idea. I love the idea. Absolutely.
Can I want to be there.
I think you need to be our VJ for the live stream of it. You know what I mean?
I will host the pre-show live stream like I did for the one in LA, and then maybe I could be on your panel.
I love that.
Maybe.
Yeah,
maybe.
I'm for it.
Hi.
I'm for it. Hi. How are you?
Awesome.
So,
obviously,
the thing I drew attention to this morning, besides the fact that the Republicans are flipping out about the budget or whatever, is that Trump has quintupled down on this whole Gaza nonsense, and everybody around him, you can see their eyes just widen like this.
Even
it's just
Susie Wiles.
Right.
She was like, "You're doing what?"
Right. And
yes,
but that was early. That was early in the process where he kind of flippantly did it. And then, like I said, later in the day, it was in his official remarks, written on paper. He said it on the airplane on the way to the Super Bowl. And in worse terms, right? It's just ridiculous. I don't know. And again, every time he says it, it gets more and more absurd and more, quite frankly, right on the nerve of, it's a real estate development deal I'm trying to make. That's like all I give a shit about. Like, I'm just going to take this and build condos and fuck you.
Oh, it's infuriating, right? Because of all of the Muslims who are like, I'm not voting for Kamala because she loves genocide. And we're like, no, she doesn't.
Right.
But that's fine. Keep going.
Yeah, that part of it, like, I've seen people try on Blue Sky and a couple other places to walk back their shit about this stuff and go, well, there really wasn't much of it. There's a huge fucking difference.
Stop it right fucking now. There's a reason he's going to get impeached for a third time. Why people aren't talking about that? It was announced on Wednesday, and it is not dominating the news cycle. That just tells you how fucked up the media is. The reason there's going to be a third impeachment, which, by the way, I wrote a lot of notes today, and I wrote them in pink because I'm a girl, but impeachment's right there at the top because on Wednesday, our friend, not Al Green, the singer, but Al Green, our congressman from Texas, announced a three-peat, an impeachment three-peat. We're going back in mainly because of ethnic cleansing in Gaza, but I think they should throw everything into this one, the election fuckery and all of the shit that's going on with Doge and all of the Elon Nazi shit, all of it. Throw it in there with this, because anybody who said that they just couldn't vote for Kamala because of stuff around Gaza and the Palestinians and the Middle East, you can go fuck yourselves, because I can tell you right now, Kamala Harris would not right now be intending to turn Gaza into the Atlantic City of the Middle East, which is what Donald Trump wants to do.
Absolutely. Not only
MAGA. Nice going.
Not only does he want to, he's making directives about it. Now, I happen to think that there are a bunch of people around him who think that they can manage his fixations like they did last time. Right. Yeah. And the issue that he has is that there are people around him who he has broomed everybody but loyalists and the like. And I actually think that the votes around some of his, people that have kind of been punted. Have they scheduled a vote for Cash yet?
No, that is delayed. The confirmation hearing for him, everything is delayed for him because they keep finding out more hinky shit that he's done.
Yeah.
So,
and the same thing with Tulsi's vote. They're expecting them if they hold a budget vote or whatever.
And RFK, right?
And RFK, right.
There's a reason to shut down the government right there so that they can't have those hearings and confirm any of those fuckers who are trying to kill us, because they already put in enough fuckers who are trying to kill us. Why did Pete Hegseth need a $50,000 emergency paint job, MAGA taxpayers? I don't know. I don't know why it was an emergency. It's not like there was lead paint peeling on the walls at DOD. All of it's real fishy, and nobody's asking the right questions. But anyway, circling back.
Yeah.
All of the things that they're doing are bad things and great reasons to just throw it all into the impeachment. And people who are like, oh, but we're not going to get him, they're not going to convict him this time. It's like, well, it's a numbers game, right? All of this is a numbers game based on who's got a majority and who doesn't. But reminding everybody, the last time he got impeached, that would be the second time, 10 Republicans voted with Democrats because it was around January 6th. And it was close enough still to January 6th that people were like, I remember because it was a couple of days ago and this fuckery just happened and enough Republicans voted. This time we don't even need 10. Their margin is so thin in the Senate. And I think that if Democrats get all the same impeachment managers back and they do enough digging and then they put in everything that's happened just since January 20th, along with the Gaza stuff, enough Republicans would be like, if they keep going, my name's going to come up. Maybe I should nip this in the bud and vote to convict Trump this time. I don't know. But what matters is getting it into the historic record, even though Trump has fired the congressional archivist. Isn't that great? So, but I heard a little bit about what you and Cliff were talking about before, and Democrats are doing stuff. what we're doing is relying on the courts because
Mm-hmm.
Congress can only do so much, right? And so a lot of things are being kicked down to the courts.
Until the
Something
votes
that
on the
I
budget
did,
happen, that's all they have to work with. And
Right.
in committee, there's a bunch of committee things that
Right.
they do. But
right. And so I can't stand it. And you and I have talked about this before. I can't stand it when people complain without offering solutions, or at least saying, hey, here's an action we took because this was making my teeth itch. So aside from the impeachment three-peat happening, which more people need to be talking about, I don't care what people say, you're not going to get a conviction. Doesn't matter. We knew we weren't going to get them the first 2 times. It's about doing it, right? It's about that accountability. The other thing that you can do that is happening right now is you can file a civil liberties lawsuit against Elon Musk. You can file a civil liberties complaint. I did that, and I actually wrote about it for Political Voices Network last week. And there are now 13 states, 13 attorneys general who are suing Elon Musk. So that's something, right?
Yeah.
And I believe more and more states, like probably every blue state's attorneys generals, will be joining that lawsuit. But 13 is a good start, like the original 13 colonies. I watched Hamilton again last week, so I'm feeling wicked patriotic.
Right.
So that is a thing that's happening. So people should know about that. And then there's another thing that's happening right now, which is Democrats introduced a bill on Friday to keep Elise Stefanik's seat empty.
Yeah.
So that's one fewer Republican. And then in April, there is a special election to fill 2 seats left vacant by Republicans, Matt Gaetz and Mike Waltz. And both of them are Florida. So, but we have time. So in April, we could conceivably flip the House and get our majority back. We could. And like the song says, Hal, April comes, she will. And so we have time.
I know.
That's
I used to date her.
for us. What?
Guaranteed. I was like,
Do you know the
I know.
song? Do you know the song
No.
I'm referring to?
No, I used to date
it's
April.
in a Garfunkel, and it's in The Graduate. April, come she will. Anyway,
Oh, yeah.
this is
I hummed it a few
time
times in
for
my life.
us.
Sorry.
What? Well, I'm not in full singing voice yet this morning. It's a little early.
That's okay.
But
That's
anyway, anyway, the point is we have time to do stuff instead of sitting around on Twitter going, which, by the way, I locked my Twitter account. It's not the time for whining. It's the time for doing. We have time before this special election. So let's make the most of that time.
Yes.
And really, everyone on Blue Sky flood. And here's something that there's a couple of things that we need to be demanding of Democratic leadership before we get to that, because it's in my head right now. The first one is that we need our own Democratic press secretary right now, right fucking now. What Democrats are doing, which is great, is at the end of every day, Malcolm Kenyatta, David Hogg, Ken Martin, our new DNC chair and vice chairs, are tweeting and putting out on all social media. Here's what Democrats did today with a list of, we tried to stop this, we tried to stop this, we did this, we did, which is great. But not all of Voting America is on social media, and most people are trying to leave social media. So we need a Democratic press secretary as soon as Caroline is done lying to them in the official press room. There needs to be a briefing held by a Democratic press secretary outside the press room so that the gaggle immediately walks past that person and gets the word out, because they're now limiting who can be in the building again. They cut more people. They're kicking out NBC. They're kicking out all of these people and replacing them with liars and co-conspirators. And I put that out on Twitter and Blue Sky, and the response has been enormous. Democrats need that truth coming out, and not just on social media. You need it in the real media every day. And I would love to see that person being Jessica Tarlov from Fox News, because she's incredible at her job, but her talents are going to waste over there because that's a very narrow audience that's seeing her.
And they get to pick when and if she's heard.
Right. And so Donald Trump has already appointed 2 people from Fox News to his cabinet. So if Donald Trump can hire people from Fox News, so can Democrats. I would love to see Jessica in that position because she is so smart and she is so media savvy, and she will not fall for those traps set by the right-wing media with the gotcha questions. She won't fall for it because she doesn't already. And as much as, it would be powerful to see a woman of color in that role, as we saw with Karine Jean-Pierre, I like the added gotcha of a former Fox News person standing up for the Democrats. That's something we need to see immediately. The other thing that we need to see immediately, and I have sent this to Democratic leadership as well, every single congressional Democrat needs a Blue Sky account. Every single one of them.
Yep.
Because the only reason I have not completely disabled my Twitter account by today is because not all Democrats are on Blue Sky. Once they are, I will personally have no reason to go back to Twitter. The Nazi shit really amped up this weekend.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying, again, a lot of it is crap. A lot of it is bot driven. A lot of it is, I'm not scared. But again, it's a choice of how we're going to move forward. And my message is not going to be heard anywhere but where we are. So I don't care if you want to call it an echo chamber. This is the only way we're going to regroup. So, following your advice, following the advice of Malcolm Nance. But again, if we get those two things from Democratic leadership, where we have a consistent Democratic voice every single day, 5 days a week, putting out messaging to the media at large, again, and people, wherever they consume their media, they at least might see it. That's great. And then everybody on Blue Sky, so that we can continue to hold our Democratic leadership accountable without the interference from the Nazi bots, because that's what they're there for. And we don't want that. And so I think if we get those together, we could really, rebuild the resistance movement that people are like, the Democrats aren't doing anything. Yeah, they are. You just don't know that because you're not. Well, you're not receiving that messaging wherever you're consuming your media.
It's also, part of, there is a strategy to what Trump does, even if it's just the people around him letting him say whatever fucking pops into his stupid head. So that, because it eats up time.
Throwing it at the wall.
And it eats up so much, like Greenland, Canada, Gaza, all these things eat up so much of the bandwidth of what's out there that you don't know that, like consumer confidence is taking a shit, that people are calling their Republican representatives about egg prices every day to the point where they're clamoring about it and they've got no solution about it. They actually think that confirming RFK will make that confidence worse about like food safety and the like, which is, I can't imagine. But that's, that part of it is really happening, humming along behind the fact that Trump wants to build Trump Tower Gaza, which is just, it's so fucking insane that it's
disgusting.
And that news people, it's like some stuff's a laser pointer like Canada and Greenland. But the Gaza thing, like, even if he doesn't follow through, even if he doesn't actually, make any major moves in that direction, the talk about it is already going to trigger violence. His recognition of the Golan Heights and his recognition of Jerusalem and moving the embassy is the reason that Yahweh Sinwar cited for why October 7th happened when it did. That they considered this like, America's coming and they're going to wipe us all out. Now's our time, if ever. And the only thing that will save Gaza is if we take a bunch of Jews and Americans hostage and keep them so they can't bomb the whole fucking place. And Trump's basically like, I don't know how much longer I can take it. They're looking all skinny when they come out. I'm just going to assume they're dead and just fucking nuke the joint. The only reason he isn't joked about nuking it is because he wants to build something there, because the nuclear fallout would make it unlivable. That's it. That's the only reason.
Oh my God. And the glee in which, elected Republicans are embracing this is disgusting, with Nancy Mace tweeting, let's turn it into Mar-a-Lago. It's like, do you even fucking know what you're suggesting? Right. Do you understand what it means to do that? You are supporting ethnic cleansing. You are supporting the genocide.
Directly.
You are.
Right.
Not Democrats. Never Democrats. And it's so fucking infuriating that the wrong messaging goes out. And I don't know why Nancy Mace is getting to speak on the House floor tonight, but she shouldn't be allowed. Nancy Mace belongs in the fucking loony bin right now. So, and they all do, right? They all do. It's all insanity. But it is that overwhelming us with terrible so that we can't focus on any one thing. Right. And it's the same playbook from 2016. It's just worse now because he's got the unelected Nazi helping him.
But it also has to, you got to jack it up because the old stuff isn't going to work. Again, he went from
the sequel,
some of them.
So there needs to be a bigger body count in the sequel.
Right. That's right. The whole like and some of them are nice people was the statement around immigrants back then. Now he's dropped that entirely. They're basically all insane. It's 28 days later. Like they're just blood spitting monsters.
There's not an invasion of America happening. There is not at all. There has not ever been one. Stop it.
So there was a
we're not canceling Christmas and we're not coming for your guns and there's no reason to protect the Second Amendment because no one's trying to get fucked with it. Like all of this messaging, this lunacy, this propaganda, most of it delivered at the Super Bowl. What the fuck? It's just insanity. The way that they're deluging everybody with all of these, the fear tactics are old, but the way that they're just bombing everybody with it. I turned off the Super Bowl after like 5 minutes yesterday because it was like the super propaganda bowl. The entire time the commercials were like, Fox News is great. No, it isn't. Meta's doing great stuff. No, you're not. Starlink is now with T-Mobile. Isn't that awesome? No, it isn't. And then I didn't even make it long enough to watch the Elon Musk US AID propaganda commercial. I shut it off. I turned it back on to watch Kendrick because I knew Kendrick was going to deliver. And I knew MAGA was going to be triggered by Kendrick when they announced him even before the election. So I was excited about that, right? I was excited to see a 100% black Super Bowl halftime show with a black Uncle Sam and Kendrick Lamar telling us that, the revolution's about to be televised. You got the wrong guy at the right time. Like all of it, all in mwah. That was fantastic. That was so super triggering. The problem is like now Twitter is like super extra flooded with Nazi shit and white supremacist shit. And so, so it's like all of it happening at once, right? And that's the playbook. And so where are you supposed to like direct your energy when they're doing it, when they're throwing, all of this shit at the wall to see what sticks to make us the most angry? And what's fascinating to me is that how it's still like MAGA's mad, but they're not mad about the right things. And I want to know what they're mad about because the shit that I got this weekend, I got death threats this weekend. It's been a while. It's been a while since I've gotten death threats. Like I've gotten Nazi shit all the time from the bots. This weekend, people called me the C word and told me that that I should kill myself, that they hoped that, things would, that I would die in pretty gruesome ways. Reported all of them. None of them got suspended, but I got a warning on one of mine because I decided to defend myself. Like this is where we are. And so again, MAGA kids in the chat, hi, how are you? How are you doing? How are you feeling about things? Because I'm not feeling very good. I'm not feeling very good for you. And every week I tell you, I don't want you to die for this guy. And every week he gives you more reasons to die for him. I don't get it.
I don't think they get your message largely because they're still hungover from church yesterday. So,
is that what happened? Were they drunk at church?
Yeah, they just hang out in the parking lot and drink and pretend you went.
Wait, do people tailgate at church?
Yeah,
is that a thing?
It's
Weird.
not supposed
I did not
to,
know that.
but yeah. And
again,
you think
always
you can listen
learning.
you think you can listen to Paula White speaking in tongues sober? For fuck's sake.
Ooh, she
and also
is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Well, and I like I said on Blue Sky, in her defense, she is the pastor at the First Baptist Church of slamming your dick in a car door. So the speaking in tongues part comes
money
naturally.
From Journey.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, her husband's the keyboard player.
The keyboardist.
Yeah.
Right,
yeah.
But she stole like almost $1 million from the band or something.
Yeah.
Ooh,
yeah. So I have been watching a lot of like what the actual fuck stuff on in the House and in their committees and watching basically the C-SPAN side of things to see how much legs Trump's shit has, because right now he's effectively, in terms of executive orders, punching himself out and doing a bunch of PR, because he literally in that Gulf of America's thing, he's on the plane. He signed an executive order or a declaration declaring this Gulf of America Day or some shit like that. Like, again, this has nothing to do with any of the flim-flam bullshit he was running on about helping the economy and all that kind of stuff. And it's just fucking cartoon. And so
no one's going to fucking call it that anyway. The real Gulf of America is between his tiny pink pig ears.
Well,
it's the Gulf of Mexico. It always will be.
Right. Well, The point I'm trying to make is that this is a lot of blather, makes a lot of noise. It's a lot of he's going for that kind of like pearl clutch. He's really hunting for the pearl clutch. And that's why I feel like it's our moral responsibility to never give him that, so that you don't go every stupid fucking crazy thing he does. I'm like, I have this like, and Gaza's the best example of it and the most clear, because to do any of what he's saying is extraordinary. It would take immense pressure. Like, there is no way he's going to choke the economy of Canada out of existence or invade Greenland. And the steps to do it, once he started phase one of any of these projects in that regard, even Republicans in his in his caucus that are his most supportive would go, I thought we were anti-interventionist. I don't know. No new wars. We ran on no new wars and budget cuts. This is going to be $1 trillion no matter what the fuck we do. What are you talking about? They've been blowing up his phone about economic issues and tariffs. That's why he dialed a bunch of them back. It's the same thing will fucking happen with any of these things. So when he says things like that, my immediate noise, I'm not even interested. I'd rather focus on what they're actually trying to get by, because there are some material things that are concerning, need to be handled in the courts, can be pushed back against, and in the budget. Like there is no budget for Doge, for example, and that because it's not a real department. It's
not a real department. Thank you.
Right.
Just keep saying that, and yet the Hitler Youth hackers had their filthy hands all over our private information. Everyone's like, okay.
Well, here's the thing. So I watched Besant talking about who got access to what. And he hired inside the Treasury a couple of the guys that are on Doge. So they're not outsiders storming in the place with the team and blah, blah, blah. They actually work there now. But those guys, unlike the rest of Doge, have taken an oath to protect the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. This includes their boss. And there are legal ramifications to this. There's also economic ramifications that Besant himself doesn't want to have happen. So that's why it's shallow comfort, but it does exist in terms of they're not just the whole group isn't walking in with a bunch of fucking laptops and doing shit. It's way more insidious. And so because these guys are hired by the Treasury under Besant, they can be pulled into Congress under standard rules, and they don't have to be necessarily subpoenaed. They can be brought in under normal rules in terms of whatever oversight. So, which is different from Doge as a non-governmental entity, right? And that has to be part of the thinking on the Democratic side. It's like, okay, if you're going to hire these guys, we need to see their clearance paperwork and we need to know everything about them. I also think that one of the things the press could do, instead of just outing them on Daily Beast, which I thought was great, they doing a whole thing on them, is that they should be the people that are getting interview requests. And if they're refusing them, it should be treated the same way as like Biden or Harris not doing an interview with somebody. If these guys, why aren't these fuckers going on Joe Rogan? Why aren't these fuckers going on in 60 Minutes? Why isn't 60 Minutes doing a report? We want to interview the Doge team, not Trump, not Elon Musk, and not him there, sitting there watching them speak, right? We want to interview these guys in what they're
not going to
doing.
get to, though. Even if they requested it, they won't even let Democrats enter the building. So they don't want anyone knowing what they're doing.
Okay. And again, this is all crucial to this. The Republicans didn't have the ability to go into certain buildings during the last term as well, because there are rules about that in particular. The locking out of it and the shutting down and shuffling, that'll end up in the courts. But what I'm saying is make them admit they're full of shit. Because if you're going to live a PR life, if you're going to present this, we are freedom, we are open, we are freedom of speech, blah, 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 then that's an opening. That's a target. And that's where you can dismiss them as being completely full of shit when they bring it up, instead of, having to even get into the muck with them about what constitutes free speech, what constitutes openness and transparency. Like, fuck you and your transparency. You won't even let these guys do an interview, period.
Right. And that's another reason why we need a Democratic press secretary, because when Caroline goes out there and lies about what Doge does and doesn't do and what they're all of that and all the crosstalk and the smoke screening, then immediately after that, Jessica Tarlov can say, well, actually, Doge is doing this, 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 and this in the name of this person and this person. We can't get answers from this person. So maybe you want to ask questions about these people. That's why we need a Democrat to go out there every day and be like, here I am with a machete cutting through all of these swaths of bullshit. Yeah. That's what we need. And I don't know how
more
better
subscribers to do
reach.
that.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, we have to make sure that the truth is louder than all of these distractions. And so, and it's a huge part of how they got to where they are now. So it's because the media was complicit in it. And the sooner we can get the truth back into, and it's important to get the truth out there before the lies can take hold. That's something that Democrats have not been successful at. And this is a way to get at, if you can't get ahead of it, you can at least try to run next to it and try to stay with it.
Right. I also, again, I think we have a tendency to use language that appeals to us, but doesn't, it isn't impressive to them or isn't shocking or doesn't hit the same nerve. And I'll give you a good example. One is where, like, what are they hiding? That phrase. Okay, we'll hear that phrase a lot. What are they hiding? Why won't they? What are they hiding? That in and of itself allows for the inference or implication, depending on who's talking, that they aren't hiding anything. It's just something else, which is, so the languaging has to be entirely, they are engaged in something, they're guilty until proven innocent linguistically, right? You have to discuss this like, these are these are unelected bureaucrats, use the language of the right, that are storming into these places they have no right to be in, looking at the personal data of Americans. And if they say, no, we're not, prove it. Yes, you are.
Yes, you are.
And again, I don't even know, even if you say we're not supposed to, we have no idea who these guys are. So why would we assume that they have our best interests at heart when none of them have joined the military, none of them have served overseas, none of them have put their life on the line? As a matter of fact, the vast majority of them on the committee have not sworn an oath to defend the country, even in the actions that they are doing. So why the fuck wouldn't we believe this is just an army of, like, Edward Snowdenites who are here on marching orders from the Kremlin? Prove it.
Because they are. I mean, that's 100% what they are. And it's astonishing. Like, there was a report that when Democrats went to try to get answers, federal officers were there to stop them. And so that's scary. And so that makes me think, like, the Capitol Police and the DC Police don't work exclusively for Donald Trump. If Democrats had brought Capitol Police officers or DC officers with them with the intention of arresting those who were trespassing on our information, like they're not accessing our information legally, I feel like that would have escalated violently. And that's almost what they want us to do. Yeah. So they can point and say Democrats are violent. Like, I don't know what the solution is. I want there to be a legal solution where nobody is, endangered in any way. But I don't know how to make the other side understand how awful this is for them. And there's a huge frustration when it comes to what we do. Because you and I and everybody else in the sexy liberal universe, we are invested in helping people get to the truth of what's happening and helping them. Like, that's a huge part of what we do, is telling them the truth. And, like, you heard this, but it's actually this. And it's really hard for us to keep doing that when we have no way of getting people to hear us. So, and that's why when I'm here with you and I know that there are MAGA people in the chat, like, I get so frustrated because I just want an answer to my why question. Like, why don't you understand that this is bad? Why don't you understand that you're going to suffer for this? Don't you remember more people died from COVID in the red states? Don't you understand that this is going to hurt you more than it's going to hurt us first? Like,
no, they don't.
They don't. And the question is, do they not understand, or do they understand, but they have to pretend that they don't, that they think it's awesome because they're so invested in the front? Like, we have to pretend everything Trump does is awesome, even if we don't think it's awesome. None of this is awesome.
Yeah, there's a reason why a lot of red state folks look at the American people and go, everybody's fucking stupid and nobody knows how to do anything and blah, 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 because you reference what you're surrounded by. People in traffic often argue that no one can drive when the person in front of them is doing something that they did not predict or understand, or they themselves would do in the same circumstance, right?
Guilty.
Yeah. And so people in the cities tend to do that. In the country, you reference people you interact with on the regular, people in your town, the poorest families around you, and therefore the most problematic, any crime that happens around you, and you extrapolate that out over over the bigger distance between you and your neighbors to the rest of the country. It becomes a global view, and it's their governments don't work, so they assume the government doesn't work.
That's a really good way to put it.
Are stupid and uneducated, and therefore the rest of the country must be that way. Now, they never think it's them. And this goes to that whole, like, people hate the government, love their congressperson a lot of times, unless it's a direct party conflict. But most of the people who think, like, it all sucks, but my guy's doing his thing. There's an extrapolation of that towards who's expendable. Okay? There's an issue where in their own state, people live in Oklahoma that are as baseline average in their economic future, in their education, in the car they drive, the house they live in. They're on the same fucking playing field of everybody else in their manufactured community, suburb, or whatever the fuck around Oklahoma. But they themselves believe they're the alpha on the block. And if you go right next door, that's what that person believes. They believe there is a magical hierarchy that exists in the fabric of space-time, that they somehow are a wrinkle in it. And they all think this. So they think if the shit hits the fan or somebody's going to win the lottery, they're going to avoid the shit and win the lottery. This is why they look at tax policy that affects billionaires as if it affects them, because they envision their own future as being superior to other people. Now, it's not based on anything, and it's not just a red state thing. It just festers there. And so a bunch of these people vote as if they're millionaires in their self-interest. They vote as if the people getting public assistance are sucking money out of the coffers, because that's what they think of the 3 families that go to their kids' school who are clearly on assistance, who stink up the place, and you had to get a lice comb because that broke out, right? They view that as extrapolating across the entire society, instead of, it's nowhere near that in blue states. There's way more fucking people. They're way more complicated social structures. They couldn't even fucking fathom it. And there's no direct overlay of how, fucking Toledo works over, well, Toledo's a bad example, like Bakersfield overlaps on top of San Francisco, New York, Chicago, anything. It's like, it is a totally different world. Right. And yet at the same time, they think I'm Trump. He is me. Of all these people, if a bomb hit the place, if they dropped a bioweapon on my neighborhood, I'd be the one that's magically immune. That's what they think. That's why
it's magical thinking. It's magical.
But it's why they don't think they're voting against their own best interests. Like, when we see that, we know they are, but they don't process it that way at all. Listen to them talk at the fucking rallies.
I know. I've heard them.
None of them. They are not voting against their own best interests. They just have a really fucked up idea of what their interests are. They have an exaggerated view of themselves and importance that raises up what they think the impact of government. That's why, like, when Cliff was on, he was saying that, like, if you ask the average person, they think 25% of our budget goes to foreign aid. That's that thinking. That's like, fuck, man, all this money, I don't get any of that money, and they throw all this money at everybody else, right? And a whole quarter of if we just got rid of that, we'd probably solve the fucking thing, right?
That's why Donald Trump makes up arbitrary numbers when he's complaining, because it's always overinflated. But again, it's like, but as an individual, you are going to start feeling all of this shit that he's doing when you go to the grocery store, when you go get gas, when you try to go buy, batteries or whatever it is that you need on the daily, because he's going to implement those tariffs from China. And all of your electronic shit is going to cost you too much. And to feed your family, the people who are sitting in the chat right now, MAGA people, you have already started spending more to feed yourselves. You already are spending more money than you were spending a month ago already. You just aren't paying that close of it. You're either not paying attention, or you're saying, I'm okay with spending more because dear leader says this is going to be in the best interest of the country. No, it is not. It is not in the best interest of the country to bankrupt the citizens of the country, because he's trying to either bankrupt you or kill you. He doesn't care which one comes first. So again, it's about you. He is the most selfish motherfucker on the planet. Be selfish for 1 second and think about your personal livelihood. Think about the money that you spend every single month to live, your rent, your utilities, your food, your gas. Do you live alone? Do you live with a family? Are you fiscally responsible for another life? Because that person's life is going to cost you more money too. Your insurance, he wants to take away your insurance and not replace it with anything. He wants to eradicate the Department of Education, which impacts public schools on every level you can imagine. And you have no idea how much the Department of Education does on a daily basis to keep this country going. You don't understand, because it hasn't impacted you yet,
also, again,
but it is coming.
Yeah.
And
but
when
again,
it does, come back and say, Tara, I'm sorry.
Well, again, then on a
They're not gonna do that. I'm just kidding.
No, because on a national level, they can't process, and the difference that the Department of Education makes is over years and decades in terms of quality of life and all that kind of stuff. What they will notice is the cut in food supplements for people in their state, and there's a big chunk of maggots, especially. Like, I'm not talking about your run-of-the-mill Republicans, and this is where we will separate them out. There's the group that can come to their senses, and the people who have no fucking sense of anyone else at all. And the maggots would be those people. And those people are like, you know what? We're saving too many poor people anyways. They agree with Kissinger about the useless eaters. Right? They think,
my God.
We have been saving too many people. And if you just cut off the food aid and cut off all these things, these people will stop breeding. That's and again, this is where the whole argument of they vote against their own best interests, largely not because they're not aware of sort of a hierarchy of needs or something, is that they think they're on the wrong part of the scale. They lie to themselves, or they're just so morally vacant that they can't process that. So when you talk to someone like that, you have to understand you're not going to be able to appeal to based on facts or their own sense of empathy. You're hurting the people around you. You're hurting your own state. You're like, they don't hear it that way. They do not. And again, like, you literally have to put it in terms of like, you're making America suck for citizens, right? That literally, because
but for yourself too. That's what they're not getting. Like, this will
but they're not gonna.
It will hit them at some point. Something will happen. It's already happening. Like, farmers are really mad right now. Like, that matters. You should be listening to that.
Right. So the people I'm talking about, you're talking about like the winnables in the Republican Party, the people that, again, when Hillary Clinton talked about the basket of deplorables, she was trying to bifurcate regular order Republicans or conservatives from the maggots. She was trying to make a very distinct difference, that they're not all like this. It was actually mitigatory and trying to cross a border with these folks that was perceived in their mind and go, we're not talking to all you guys. Some of you fuckers, we're never going to move because you're nuts.
No, you're
but
unreachable.
Everybody else, right. But so the basket of deplorables crowd is now Trump's effective base. They are,
and they're proud of it. They're proud to be deplorables.
So exactly. Right? So what's going to happen when they're wrong? Are they going to admit it? Of course not. Are they going to blame Trump because it was his fault? No. You know what they're going to do? They're going to shut the fuck up and they're going to slink back into the bushes. That's what they're going to do.
I hope so, because they haven't done it yet.
That's I'm telling you, not the fucking Proud Boys and not Charlie Kirk and the front end of these things, but the average run of the mill in a bunch of these places. When it hits them, they are not going to be able to call him out or call out the economic plan or call out the lack of protection against fucking avian flu. They're all going to fucking Homer Simpson their way back, and they're going to do what a lot of these assholes did when they voted, the Tea Party crowd, when they voted for Bush. And then Afghanistan and Iraq happened, and suddenly they're independents. Suddenly they stop being registered as Republicans and all this stuff. They vote that way every fucking time, but they stop calling themselves back. And that was on a way lower scale because that was abstract. That was overseas. That was $6 trillion of budgetary money that's just kind of sitting in a balloon. But this is their own life shit. This is their own family members going, what the fuck is with groceries, you know? And they're like, ugh. In the same way the uncommitted motherfuckers will do it.
There are no eggs at the grocery store, none eggs. And part of that, you know, that's the bird flu that Kennedy wants us all to die from. So don't get vaccinated so you can die faster. Just
well, and again,
why would you vote for that? I don't get that.
And also there's not
do you think you're immune? You're not immune
yes,
from
they
bird
do.
flu. It's cuckoo. You're cuckoo.
Okay. So little story time. Let me. I don't know if you've ever done.
Tell us a story, Uncle Hal.
Yeah. Okay. There's a thing called Nellis auctions. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's a lot of shit that like people return to Amazon and you can bid on it and whatever, and maybe it works and maybe it doesn't. They just kind of open. You know, it's like open box mostly, or just returned flat out, or somebody ordered too many and they returned them, and so they sell them at this thing. Okay. There's a version of it online where you can bid on things and whatever. And so Summer's kids got a new house, and there's occasionally on things like faucets and shit like that people will order. And that's just one of the ways you can really, you know, maybe get them very cheaply is these kind of sites. So we signed up for a couple of them, Summer and I did. And we kind of keep a lookout because we got to replace a bunch of shit in his place and, you know, before he moves in. So we'll save ourselves some money. So there's also the dregs version, which is not online. It's an actual outlet. And you go there and it's just rows and rows of these bins of God knows what, not organized at all, nothing, just poured into these things. And you sift through there and you might find something, and you might just waste your fucking time. You wear gloves because it's so nasty because everybody's just in there with their hands and whatever. And so we went just to check it out. And it was hilarious. It was mostly Christmas shit because that's what was all, you know, it was like I ordered it, came too late, and they sent it back. Let me show you what I found, though. There were a bunch of Trump flags in this thing. But let me show you what else. Let me show you what else I found. And there were a lot of these. Okay, so wait. So there were a lot of these things. So there's people buying these things and then throwing them out, not using them, or keeping them for a while and then figuring I'm going to, you know, we're past that hump.
Safeguard
fenbendazole, which is basically
oh
this is the equestrian fucking ivermectin, basically the fenbendazole that maggots were using, and it was in the same bin with the Trump flags, and there was like dozens of these fucking things. And I was like, I'm like trying to go like this is like I feel like I got a gift bag from Joe Rogan.
That's wow.
Yeah. So is it
that's
apple
like a
flavored?
Visual metaphor for his entire life.
Yes.
That a bin of that. Like you should have taken a photo of the bin of trash and been like, this is the visual embodiment of everything about Trump.
And here's the thing, Here's the thing, maggots. Scoot in. Let me tell you something right now.
Come
You're
closer.
Uncle Hal and
Uncle
your
Hal's
Aunt
got
Tara.
some knowledge to drop.
You know that shit about you don't trust big pharma because blah blah blah. What does it say in the corner of that right there? What does that say? It says Merck.
It
is
says
what it
Merck.
fucking says.
Like Merca.
Ivermectin is not fucking whittled from an oak tree and you just snort the shavings, you dumb motherfucker. It's a chemical made by a pharmaceutical company sold to veterinarians. What the fuck is wrong with you? Again, it's like you'll take the you won't take the vaccine because pharmaceutical companies, but you'll take the monoclonal antibodies from a pharmaceutical company. If they can put a chip in the vaccine, you don't think they can put a fucking chip in the antibodies, in the mAbs? And also, I'd like to point out that all the fucking, oh my God, RFK Jr. motherfuckers who are watching the ads, like every ad you see, it's all drugs and Americans are blah, blah, blah. Let me tell you something. Look at the real name, not the, Clandesta or whatever they fucking everything sounds like a Nissan from the fucking 90s that you use as a suppository.
Absolutely.
Right? Don't look at that. Don't look at that. Look at the actual fucking name of the drug. Almost every single one of them is a mAb. Monoclonal antibodies. Almost every single one of them.
And you're going to end up paying, what is it, 4,600% more for your prescription medications now, thanks to Trump.
And
also, while you're not taking care of yourself, while you're not getting vaccinated, but you are taking, I don't know what people, like your blood pressure medication or your mom's blood pressure medication is going through the roof while they're taking, away her Social Security. Like they're doing that too. I'm just saying in general, all of the things that matter to you are going to cost you more or kill you sooner. I don't know.
And again, I'm like, fucking, these guys will like drink in a giant Mountain Dew fucking cherry Mountain Dew X or whatever the shit they're drinking.
Right.
And then talk to me
with colors that don't occur in nature.
Right. And talk to me about Make America Healthy Again. Shut the fuck
the entire fuck up. And again, can you please just acknowledge that the person who is put in charge of the nation's healthcare systems should have a medical degree? Could we agree on that? Could we just basically agree on that? Because if you don't agree, then I would ask you to schedule your next colonoscopy with RFK Jr. and have that televised. If you trust him with making decisions about the entire nation's healthcare, that means you entrust him with making decisions about your healthcare. Have him perform some sort of invasive medical procedure, specifically in your nether regions. If you trust him that much, he is not a doctor. I don't care what you think about his opinions or his ideas. He's not a doctor. He shouldn't put a tongue depressor in your mouth, okay?
Right.
He is not qualified. He's not, I don't care what blue drops he's putting in his fucking drink. He is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. He takes apart animal carcasses. He drove his second wife to suicide. Like, there's nothing good about him. He works out topless in jeans. Nothing about him makes sense. Absolutely nothing. If you think he's qualified to take care of your health care, then go see him the next time you have a fever. Like, it's just insanity. At least take a step back I have so many questions that we don't have time for, but one of my questions when people are talking about, eradicate the Department of Education. Most of you went to public school. Most of the people trying to eradicate the Department of Education went to private school because they're fucking rich. You went to public school. Anybody who is here with us right now in the chat, I would say most of us went to public school. Most of us probably did. So can you name a time where your parents went into your school and told your teachers how to teach you? Because that never happened to me. My parents aren't smart enough to teach me at home. That's why I went to school. So, and my parents never went to school and said, I don't want Tara learning about this, this, and this. I want you to teach her this way. That never happened. The only time that happened is because I learned to read before kindergarten. So I didn't have to do the reading lessons with them. I had a tutor because I was ahead. But other than that, they didn't say, don't teach her this part of history because we don't agree with it. If anybody in the chat could tell me about a time when your parents went to your school and told your teachers how to teach you, I would be delighted to listen to that anecdote and hear the results. Because it didn't fucking happen, because no one fucking ever messed with the public school education system until now. They are trying to control what your kids are going to learn. I'm so worried about this period of history and what little kids are going to be taught. just what they're going to be carefully taught, what they're going to leave out of history books but put in instead. I'm very, very worried about that because you can't just teach the good parts version of a country's history. You're supposed to learn all of it so that you don't do it again, and we're doing it all again. So it's those little tiny things that are going to individually hit people that I think eventually will get, not everybody, but like the people you said, the ones that are going to Homer Simpson it, and he's just going to start losing support like that.
Yep.
Because no one's going to benefit from anything he's doing except him and his rich friends.
Well, and the more you draw attention to that, the more you draw attention specifically to the failures and the fact that he hasn't done it. And that should be the hammer. The hammer is Ukraine war's not over. Fucking all the hostages aren't home, and Trump wants to start a new war in Gaza. Where's the fucking
and egg prices aren't down? And
egg prices aren't down. Grocery prices aren't down. And gas prices are going to come down, and food prices aren't. Let me tell you something. Last year, I talked about this last summer, but in the oil futures market, they were talking about the fact that there's going to be a glut of oil late this year, no matter what anybody does, because China, huge chunks of their economy are going offline. So their demand for oil, their 18 million barrels a day usage has dropped to 10, and it's going to go down even further. So we're already producing to a direction, which is why the Saudis and everybody else were kind of paring back, even with Russia offline entirely for the most part. The Saudis and OPEC countries were paring down production. Why the fuck would they do that if there wasn't enough in circulation already? I mean, again, maximizing profits being one thing, but a lot of times they're not even making break-even prices for a lot of these countries. Why a lot of the OPEC countries balked against the Saudis saying dial it back. And so if Trump is, releases all these leases and they do a bunch of shit. Now, again, it takes a long time for stuff to come online. So there's already going to be too much oil for the market as far as the money they need to make per barrel to break even, to continue to find new wells, because that's the money. That's what you're always chasing in oil. You're going like, okay, we'll make money off of this. We got to make a profit off this to pay our investors, pay our employees, and we've got to be able to find new wells that we can start tapping as this one drains. That's always the issue. As much as everybody thinks it's just runaway money, that's where the expansion goes. And there's a reason to limit it, right? The problem they have is that once the production gets, where gas and oil get really fucking cheap because there's too much money out there, the only option they have is to lower production. Well, a bunch of these countries in the OPEC countries can't afford to do it. They've been doing it artificially for a while now, and they're like, no, we got to sell our shit. We're not making any money. The Saudis are rich, but we're not. So we need to sell this shit. And that's already happening. And then you add China's lowering use of oil, their collapsing economy, and you end up this year with somewhere between $1.5 million, $2 million, or 2 million barrel a day surplus. This isn't without Trump's drill baby drill shit. It was already going to fucking happen, right? So he knew this last year when he was saying, prices are going to come down for oil and gas really fast. He thought faster because his shit will work and it'll speed things up. It won't. But that's the way it's going. The problem we have with groceries have more to do with agricultural businesses losing workers and processing plants that are either losing workers, can't replace them because a lot of them are immigrants, or they've had a bird flu outbreak, or they've had an E. coli issue, or whatever. None of that has to do with how fast. Nobody gives a fuck how fast a rotten egg gets to your house. And so, what these people are walking toward, these are the trains I see converging on multiple fronts. And some of them are 2 months out. Some of them are around the budget. Some of them are later this year. But Trump has just fucking built this train set with crisscross traffic. And it's almost like he and the people around him are working to make sure they hit. Because, again, Trump will always make this case. Like, how could you be this stupid? It must be on purpose. I think he can actually be this fucking stupid. And so do the people around him.
No, he is. He doesn't understand anything. And he proves it anytime he does an interview where someone asks him a question that he's not prepared for, which is why his answers are this long, because he doesn't understand. He didn't understand how the tariffs were going to impact the country. He just likes saying the word tariffs. He just likes it. And just because it sounds impressive. He likes to use words that sound impressive, but he doesn't know what they mean, and he doesn't understand the impact.
It's leftover Ron Paul shit, because they've been trying to get rid of the income tax for a long time, and this was always their way of making the argument. So those people, via Rand Paul and a couple other people, have finally whispered in his ear, somebody at the Heritage Foundation or somebody at fucking Project 2025 was like, we could get rid of it if we could just pay for it. Back then we had horse-drawn carriages, you dumb motherfucker. The whole economy was different.
It's fucking ridiculous.
And again, it goes to that that small town does not overlay on a big town, right? They can't process it. Like they can't. And again, so if you try to get them to, Republicans in their own minds are not voting against their own best interests. And when they find out they have been, instead of going, oh, fuck, I was wrong, hell, we should probably reverse that. Okay, we tried it and it didn't work, guys. We wanted to push it. Trickle down economics didn't actually work. Sorry.
Never
we're not
has,
going to do
never
that shit anymore.
will.
Right. Well, I mean, we have our own version of that with Marxism on the left, that they keep going to this well. Instead of coming up with a social structure based on some of the positive aspects of how you create a democratic taxation system that cares for the least among us, they keep trying to like crowbar a drastic shift in the fucking system, in spite of the fact that it's never worked and millions of people have died because everybody tries it really fast through revolution and it just kills people, 40 million people in China, all that stuff you hear all the time. It's true. And they keep trying to force it. But it's a smaller group. That group has no control over the fucking Democrats in the House and the Senate, and certainly not Joe Biden, no matter how much these people tried to dream up that he was a radical leftist or something. But the right-winger,
super radical, Jesus fucking Christ.
The Ron Paul motherfuckers, the Ron Paul motherfuckers who think they can burn this shit down. And
they don't know what they're asking for when they say burn this shit down. This is where you live too. Like, why would you want to burn your own shit down? That doesn't make sense. Instead of burning it down, build it better.
I told you. That's what I was telling you, though. They don't think that applies to it. They think in the zombie apocalypse.
I know. Another thing that's encouraging, though, because I always like to, try to. We are seeing more people calling Republicans to complain about what's happening rather than just calling Democrats, rather than just not doing anything. I saw a statistic that was really encouraging, which is the Senate on average gets about 40 calls from constituents per day. Ever since Trump was inaugurated, those calls have ramped up. They're getting thousands of calls a day. They are overloading the Senate phone systems, the Republican side of the House and Senate, because even Republican voters are mad. Even and again, maybe it's that divide that Hillary Clinton was talking about, the non-MAGA Republicans, the fiscally conservative Republicans, those people who genuinely voted to protect whatever it is that they have accumulated and worked for in their lives, those who maybe remember politics pre-2015. Those people are making calls saying, that's not what I voted for. I didn't vote for this. I voted for this, this, and this, and I'm not seeing this, this, and this. I'm seeing this shit. So the more and Democrats can call Republicans too. I don't know if you guys know that. So I have been doing my part, calling Republicans, leaving voicemails because no one ever answers their phone. But go to the top, leave voicemails for John Thune. He is the majority leader now in the Senate. Yep. So he's somebody to appeal to. And he has had, he in the past has shown moments of, I can be somewhat of a normal person. So if you appeal to the human side, and when I leave him voicemails, and I've left him more than one, I say, I would love to believe that you are a human being and an American before you're a Republican. I want to believe that. So if that's the case, then this, 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 and this. And that's that's the pushback. You have to go that way, because we've learned that insulting often doesn't work. And I do it because I'm frustrated. That's why I get that way. I'm frustrated. When we make these calls, though, they actually do make an impact. And it goes back to we're shown this huge thing that feels insurmountable, but it is not. And it's like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And there's the giant, their symbol is the elephant. And the only way to take down that elephant is one bite at a time. So if we keep taking those bites, eventually that elephant will collapse. So it's going to be the accumulation of small things. And I think I've said that before, like small acts of resistance will continue to add up. It's every phone call. It's every protest. It's every time you don't shop at places that are supporting Trump. It's all of those. It's not paying for Twitter. It's doing those things that will eventually add up and turn into results as long as we keep demanding it of our elected officials on both sides of the aisle. And at this time, we need to be elevating what Democrats are doing while shining a light on what the Republicans are not doing and letting them know that we have to do both things at the same time. And it's a lot. It's a lot to ask, which is why we're here. We're friends, which is why you should sign up. You need to sign up for Hal's Substack. You need to sign up for my Substack. You need to sign up for the Political Voices Network Substack, because all of the sexy liberal voices are there in one place. And here's something exciting that's happening this week. Our friend Tara Devlin, who is part of the sexy liberal universe, who writes on Political Voices, her last name is Devlin. Our names have caused a lot of confusion between people. Like Ron and George have had conversations like, Tara Devlin said this. You mean Tara Devlin? No, I mean Tara Devlin. Tara Devlin and I are joining forces, and we're going to have our own show on the Sexy Liberal / Political Voices Network. And it's going to be called The Tara Show with Tara Devlin and Tara Dublin. And we're going to do Tara stuff. And we're going to do it on YouTube like your show is, so that people can participate. We're going to do a live show so that people can participate in chat and ask us questions. And then we're going to put it out on the Political Voices Network Substacks and our own other social media accounts. So that's another destination for you guys to hear the truth, for us to have dialogue, for us to come up with ideas. And that way, the more we're having these conversations, the better. And it's about supporting independent media voices now more than ever. And the best way that you can do that is make sure you're following everybody. Hal, me, Frangela, John, Stephanie, everybody, Boston Brian and Texas Paul, everybody who contributes, Bob Seska, Kimberly Johnson, Jojo, everybody who participates. And the more that we grow this network and support each other, the better. And so that's what we're doing. So make sure you're signed up, please. Subscribe to my YouTube, because Tara and I are going to be doing it. We'll be putting it on both of our YouTubes, Political Voices YouTubes, everywhere. It's about, across all of these platforms, supporting each other, because we're not going to be doing it on Twitter anymore. And also, please buy my book. Please buy my book, The Sound of Settling, a rock and roll love story. Some MAGA fuckface left the shittiest review yesterday, or the day before yesterday, because all the Nazis came for me this weekend. Sure. Do you know that account Defiant L's, which is the most hypocritical piece of shit account ever? It started on Twitter. It exists now on Instagram. It's Defiant L's, and basically what this account does is it finds quotes from Democratic things and tries to find an older tweet to try to show us as hypocrites, and it never works because they don't understand the distinctions and the delicacies and the intricacies of language. So this weekend they made another one with me, because they love to do it to me and they love to do it to JoJo. They love to do this to us. The thing about, immigrants I put out a thing, immigrants are welcome here. And then underneath that, a tweet about me saying something about an unelected South African immigrant Nazi bureaucrat. So I'm a racist for that. No, that's not what racism is, you fucking morons. It's not racist. Not racist to call Elon Musk what he is. He's a white guy. How is it racist for me to call? Just again, the semantics and the bullshit. So that whole weekend, one of those people put a shitty review on my book. So then I put it on Substack, on Blue Sky, and a whole bunch of people went and boosted my book instead. That's what we're supposed to do. Yay, Blue Sky.
Yeah.
Yay, Blue Sky.
Yeah, managing bad press and turning it into a positive and maximizing the Streisand effect is something you can use. So you might as well. It hurts no one.
I might
and it benefits
well.
you.
I might as well while I'm still trying.
Yeah, it hurts maggots a little bit because it goes against their intention.
And every time one of you tries to join Blue Sky, we find out and we shut you down. It's not for you. You have a Nazi echo chamber now. Go have fun in it. We're not gonna. You're not gonna be able to do this to us anymore. It's just stupid. I mean, it's a choice. Fighting online has always been a choice, but
Right.
It's I never have to accept harassment as a part of my online experience. I have a choice in that. I'm getting it really bad on Instagram right now, so I'm this close to shutting down my Instagram. And it's just like, you're all still so fucking mad, but I'm not your scapegoat. Hal is not your scapegoat. There is no such, none of the Democrats are your scapegoats. We are not your dumping ground. I am not your whipping girl. You want to have a real conversation with me that is steeped in facts? Delightful. If all you want to do is pile on me with your Nazi bullshit, I'm not going to take it. This skin is so thick after 10 years of your shit. None of it gets to hear. None of it. None of it. You are wasting your time with your empty insults. I don't care if you want to call me a crazy cat lady. Coming. They've also started calling me Skeletor because I'm skinny. Okay, you want to body shame me because I'm too skinny? You want to body shame Olivia Giuliana because she's too fat? Fuck all of you. Like, it's so basic. Like, I don't fall for it. It doesn't hurt me. Okay. But if you want to have a discussion about how I don't want you to die, I care about your life. Your life is important to me. Not one person should lose their lives because of Donald Trump. No, but not one person should lose a job, a penny, any aspect of a livelihood. Nothing. No one should lose anything because of Donald Trump. Not the people who voted for him and not the people who didn't. And I always double down on that because people don't believe me when I say it. But I don't have any hate in my heart for MAGA people. I don't want anything bad to happen to them. Trump deserves to be punished. Everything that they've done, everybody in the government who was helping Trump perpetrate this shit, all of them belong in prison. People who voted for him, I don't want you to suffer for what you did. That's not what I'm after. I wish I could turn your mind around. I wish that I could make you see the truth the way we do. If I can't, I can't. But I still don't want you to die. I mean that with all of my heart. I would never want anyone perpetrating violence against you or your children or anyone you care about. I would never threaten your livelihood the way you threaten mine. It's so imbalanced and it's so unfair, but I will still sit here with a smile on my face and tell you with all of my heart, to my last breath, the freedom that I fight for includes you. It includes you, doesn't exclude you. I don't want to live in a country that is divided. I want to live next door to someone who votes MAGA and exist in the same space and give each other the respect to exist in the same space. That's what I want. That's what humans are supposed to do. We are supposed to acknowledge that differences exist and yet still coexist without threatening each other. And until we can all do that, I'm going to still keep pushing for it. That's what I want. It's naive and it's silly and it's maybe I don't want negativity in your life or mine. Well, and again, I don't want to live like this, and I don't want you to live like this. It's not fair. It is not fair to the MAGA voter as much as it's not fair to the Democratic voter.
I would also argue that is a distinction, again, Republican versus maggot, very possibly, and the maggots will define themselves.
I hope so.
Somebody will no longer be maggot if they're not, if they don't do death threats and trolling and memeing and whatever the fuck. And we kind of don't care because, again, there are... in a diverse country, you're going to run into people who are just off the fucking grid, and that's up to them. The difference is that you should be able to at least have conversations in normal life with folks, where if you're not stepping on their fucking, one nerve that they seem to give a shit about or their panic point, that everything operates normally instead of them having to drive around in a truck with Trump's fucking face painted on it because they're afraid that people will find out that they don't know what they're talking about. So they have to wear they got to wear the gang colors and pretend nothing is his fault because if he can be wrong, then they're wrong. And they can't take that kind of hit to their self-esteem.
It's the stupidest thing. Letting your ego determine whether you live or die is really stupid. It is really stupid. Nobody ever died because they said, oh, no, I was wrong. Okay, I just said it. No, lightning struck me. I've been wrong about a lot of things. Didn't kill me. I got up the next day. The sun kept coming up and the world kept spinning. There's nothing wrong with being wrong. It's okay. That's how you learn. Oh, well, again, I made this mistake. I'm not going to make this mistake again. Like, you're allegedly supposed to learn from that.
we of course went over, as we often do when we're talking about things we give a shit about. And I want to remind everybody, Tara Dublin rocks.
Please be good to each other.
Yeah.
Please be supportive of each other. Buy my book at TaraDublinRocks.com. Sign up for House Substack. Sign up for mine. Sign up for Political Voices Network. Pay attention, because Tara and Tara are going to be taking over, and we're going to do good things. I want to go on the road with you and John and Franja, at least for one show, to get in front of an audience and get that energy going and all of that, and keep having these conversations. And again, MAGA people, I will happily have a chat with you, but it has to be respectful and it has to be steeped in reality and facts.
Yeah.
Okay. Be good to each other this
right.
week. Take care of each other. Friday is Valentine's Day. Love. Show the love.
You know
Low Bar Corral is doing an all Elton John show on Friday night here in Portland. It's sold out, and I'm telling a story about terrible dating in Portland.
Right.
That's right. We'll be doing that, and you can tell everybody this is your song. It's not making the hearts. Wait, I'm not doing it right. Anyway, okay, everybody, take care of yourselves. Buy my book and do something nice for another human being this week. Okay.
All right. Cheers.
Bye.
There she goes. Ladies and gentlemen, Tara Dublin does indeed rock. And I want to say what I was essentially trying to get through as I was helping her pitch her stuff was, in terms of how we deal with these things, I think the key, we have to remind ourselves that the language we use is not, it doesn't guarantee that someone will understand it. You can talk at cross purposes with someone, and it's the language that's the hang up. And we don't want to end up being the classic American tourist who's really actually German, in those things where they just talk louder and I'm looking for my hotel, right? You don't want to just be that way when you're talking to someone that you disagree with or what have you. You go, okay, obviously they're not hearing this. What other big kid words do I possibly have? What could possibly help me in this circumstance to sell this idea a little bit better? And it'll be different for every person. Anyways, love you guys. See you this afternoon. Bye-bye. I think, oh no, I've got to go to this music for the end, I think. There we go.